Hello everyone, good evening and welcome back to Civil's Mentorship. So as part of yesterday's target, I was supposed to study the following topics: essence of ethics, determinants and consequences of ethics, and the dimensions of ethics. And along with this, I was supposed to go through the PYQs related to these topics. So what are the things that I have studied for yesterday? So yesterday I started with this essence of ethics only, and I am still studying this particular topic itself. But before that, what I did, before delving into the essence of ethics, I covered some foundational concepts such as what is ethics, what are morals, all those concepts. Now, why I covered that? Because as we know that ethics is quite abstract in nature. So I first tried to understand the basic terms such as what is the meaning of abstract, subjective, objective, etc. So I will make means over here. I will again repeat the things which I have learnt so that I will come to know that whether I had a clear understanding of those topics or not. So firstly, what are the things that I had studied before delving into the essence of ethics? So I went through these particular definitions, like what is the meaning of abstract? Now abstract simply means that anything that exists as an idea and does not have any physical existence. So that means this is what abstract is, the meaning of abstract it is. So for example, emotions. Now emotions do not have a physical form but exist in our thought process. So this is the meaning of abstract. So next I studied about subjective. So what does this subjective means? Now subjective means a subject specific. So based on certain individual perspectives. And what is objectives, or what does the objective means? Now objective refers to something that is fact based and can be verified independently. So this is the meaning of subjective and objective. So what I tried, in order to find out the difference between subjective and objective, I just referred one example. Say for example, a particular movie which is 120 minutes long. So that means that is objective. So that means this is the fact based. So this is my objective. And suppose if I say that the movie is amazing. So that means that is subjective because it is based on my own perspective. It may differ to someone else. So that means it is based on perspective, individual's perspective. So this is what subjective is. So this is how I try to understand the differences between subjective and objective. So next what I studied is the meaning of belief and values. So firstly, I will try to recall what the meaning of belief is. So belief is nothing but it is a feeling that something is true even if it may be irrational in nature. And what is value? Now values are certain standards that help us to decide whether or how desirable or undesirable something it is to us. That means it is certain standards. Based on what? Based on that, we can decide that whether a particular thing is desirable to me or not. So that is what value is. So but how I understood this one? Now I understood through an example the relationship between this belief and values. So what was the example that I had studied? So suppose for example, if a child is taken to watch a Republic Day parade, the child observes the state tableau, army men, etc. Now which creates a belief in India's cultural diversity within that child. So the child will get a belief that okay, so because he is seeing those tableaus, the army men, those parades, so that will create a belief on that particular child about India's cultural diversity. Now suppose if the child is attending that particular parade every year, so that means that repeated exposure of those parades, different states, tableau and all those things will create a greater emotion, or suppose example it will generate a emotion like excitement. So every year that particular child will wait for for the Republic Day parades. So this is what a belief, or this is initially the belief was generated in that particular in the child. But later what happened, that belief is going to transform into certain value system in the child, such as in this case it is patriotism. We try to relate belief with values. So what I did, so I went through, as I mentioned that I went through the PYQs as well. So while going through the PYQs, I observed that related to patriotism, one time PYQ came related to patriotism. Now, what was the question? What do you understand by patriotism in civil life? So that was the question that was asked in 2014. I did not wrote any answer to any of these questions, but I just tried to relate it to the topics which I had covered for the day. So now I went to the definition of ethics. So what does this ethics, what does the term ethics means? So what I went through means what I learned is this term ethics is coming from the Greek word called ethos. So this term ethics is coming from the Greek word called ethos. Now what does the term ethos means? Now ethos means certain customs or habits of society. So what does this term ethics means? Now ethics refers to what is considered right or wrong from the society's perspective. Say for example, we have freedom of speech mentioned in our Indian Constitution. But Supreme Court in repeated judgments has stated that sometimes self-restraint is necessary. So that means though from an individual perspective, I am having freedom of speech, but I need to think from society's perspective as well. So that is what ethics is all about. So ethics is what is right or wrong from society's perspective. So that is how I try to understand the term ethics. So from ethics, I also related to ethics only, I covered two more terms, that is called absolute ethics and the other one is called relative ethics. So what does this absolute ethics means? Now absolute ethics is which is applicable to everyone everywhere at all times. So there will be no difference between two persons. So for example, the Human Rights Act. So that is the absolute ethics. So what is relative ethics? Now relative ethics varies depending on the situation or culture. For example, for a particular person, in general, what we say is that stealing is wrong. But it may be justified that if a person is stealing to to feed his starving family. So in that case, it is not wrong if I think from that person's perspective. So that is what relative ethics is about. So what was relative ethics? I learned through these examples only. So what was the example that I took is that if a person is stealing to feed his starving family. So in that case, stealing is okay. Stealing, that person is what that person is doing, ultimately he is stealing only. So stealing is wrong from society's perspective. But if I think from that person's perspective, then it can be justified. Because why? Because he is stealing to feed his starving family. So this is how I interconnected or how I differentiated the absolute ethics with the relative ethics. And apart from that, I also studied these two terms as well, ethics and law. So as of now, I know that what does ethics means. So ethics is nothing but the right or wrong from. I studied these two particular terms, the ethics and law. So basically, what is the difference between ethics and law? Now laws are what? Now what is ethics? Now ethics are what? Now ethics are based on certain personal beliefs. And if I violate that, there will be no legal penalties. But what are laws? Now laws are legally required and have penalties for violations as well. So for example, capital punishment. Now capital punishment may be legal, but it is considered unethical by some person. So this is how I try to differentiate between ethics and law. So this was all about ethics that I had studied. And apart from that, I also studied morals. So what exactly does the term morals means? So as I went through, so ethic was what does ethics means? Now ethics means the right or wrong from society's perspective. But what is moral? Now this word moral comes from the Latin word moralis. What does that mean? Now it means manners or character of an individual. So that means morals are nothing but the right or wrong from an individual's perspective. So ethics was right or wrong from society's perspective, and morals is right or wrong from an individual perspective. Say for example, we all know about the Heinz dilemma. Now what was that Heinz dilemma? Now it was that a man named Heinz needed a drug to save his wife's life, but could not afford the price set up by the pharmacist, who refused to lower it. So that is a dilemma, right? So because, okay, so at that point of at that moment, what will Heinz think? Whether to steal, because if he does not give that medicine to his wife, then his wife may not survive. So that is the Heinz dilemma. So that means if Heinz steals the medicine from the pharmacist shop, that means from society's perspective, he is stealing. But from his individual perspective or from his own perspective, he is not stealing, or he is stealing to so that he can make her wife survive. So that's the difference between these ethics and morals. So ethics is all about the right or wrong from society's perspective, and morals are right or wrong from an individual perspective. So this was all about the Heinz dilemma, which I had studied. So based on this example only, I tried to recall, or I tried to understand the definition of morals, or what does exactly the term ethics means. So this is all about what I had studied from morals and ethics and morals. But from morals, I studied few other things as well, like amoral, non-moral, unmoral, and immoral. So what does this means? Now what is amoral? Now amoral is, now people is aware of right and wrong, but who do not consider it in their decisions. So that is what amoral. Example, now in international relations, national interest is prioritized over morality. So that is what amoral is. People are aware of what is right and what is wrong, but they do not consider that from that perspective while taking a particular decision. So that is what amoral. So what is non-moral? Now things have nothing to do with morality. Like suppose example, wearing sunglasses at night. So obviously no one will wear sunglasses at night, right? But why? It is, if suppose a person wears sunglasses at night, so that is no harm as well. So that means no morality is related to it. And third one is unmoral. So what does that mean? Now beings without any moral perception. So for example, a tiger hunting a deer. So this is what unmoral is. And next was immoral. So what is immoral? Now immoral is people whose actions go against the accepted moral standards. So for example, if a person is going against the set standards, so that means that is immoral. So what is the basic difference between ethics and morals? What I understood is, what is the basic difference? Now the basic difference is, ethics is right or wrong from society's perspective. And what is moral? Now right or wrong from an individual perspective. So these are the things that I have studied yesterday. But along with that, I also went through few of the PYQs which came from this particular topic. Like suppose one example I am giving, like what do you understand by constitutional morality? It came in 2019. Similarly, question came in 2022, that ethics is knowing the difference between what you have the right. Ethics is what? Now knowing the difference between what you have the right to do and what is right to do. So that means there is a difference between what you have the right to do and what is right to do. So this is what the question came. So the question is, what does the following quotation mean to you? So what was the quotation that they have given? Now ethics is knowing the difference between what you have the right to do and secondly what is right to do. So this is the quotation that they have given and we need to answer like that, what does the following quotation means to us. And next is, I did not write any answer. I did not wrote any answer from here. I just saw these particular questions. So over the weekend, like suppose tomorrow or day after tomorrow, I'll try to write answers for all these questions. And I will also try to prepare a concise notes of this particular topic. So these are the questions I went through. There might be some other questions also which I did not looked into as of now. So these are the only questions which I have went through. So for example, in latest question that came was in 2024 only. What was the question? Now the concept of just and unjust is contextual. What was just a year back? What was just a year back may turn out to be unjust in today's context. Changing context should be constantly under scrutiny to prevent miscarriage of justice. Examine the above statement with suitable examples. So what was the question saying? The concept of just and unjust is contextual. That means it may be situation based, time based, or it may vary. What was just a year back? So it was that particular scenario was just a year back, but it is unjust in today's context. So we need to explain this particular statement with suitable examples. So these are the things which I had done for yesterday, and for today also. What is the time means already? So what is my today's target? For today, I'll show you what's the target for today. So today my target is to continue with studying the same topics as yesterday, like essence of ethics, determinants of ethics, and consequences of ethics. So I'll try to cover as much as possible. So these are the targets that I have for today, like essence of ethics, determinants of ethics. I will try to cover as much as possible, given that the major part of the day has. So these are the topics which I'll try to cover for today. Let's see how much I can cover it up for today. But meanwhile, it's a request to all of you that if you think that I made some mistake in anywhere, or it might be that the explanations which I think that is correct, it may be wrong, or something else is there which you think that can be corrected, please do let me know in the comment section, because it will benefit you and me both. So let's see how much I can complete for today. Till then, thank you.